Hello and welcome back to the Business Octopus, the sales marketing technology. I guess this is live stream. We do a few things here. We've got the community. We just generally share business tips, knowledge, information, and hopefully someone will get something of value, be able to action it, and absolutely transform their business. There's no one magic bullet. It's a lot of little things that add up, and I think today we're going to talk about something that is a little bit more long-term in thinking, but it will definitely create value for you without a shadow of a doubt. But anyway, how you going, Amanda?
Amazing. And yourself, Avon, this fabulous Friday morning.
It's been a huge week. So this is actually the first, if you're watching, this is our first morning one. Previously, we'd always done this in the afternoon, and it wasn't until like 4 o'clock on a Friday at the end of a week, and we'd be shattered and tired and like ready for bed or ready to clock off anyway. And here we are on first thing on a Friday morning. I am still tired. That's because I've been flying around the place for the last week. Have had a decent sleep though, and a lot fresher now than I would be in the afternoon. So hopefully we'll be much more entertaining.
Absolutely. And freshly caffeinated, Avon. Let's not forget that.
Always, yes, with my branded cup as well. So
amazing.
Good to go. So today we're going to talk about advanced knowledge management. And, like we talked previously about knowledge management. I think a lot of times when people think that they generally equate it to like SOPs, procedure guides, right. and like that sort of standard business stuff. But I think you can go a much deeper level and talk more about like you as an individual. And we've done personal knowledge management as well, where we talked about using an app called Obsidian. But I think to really hammer it home, we really want to just talk about the applications where this has been valuable. Now, I think, I don't know, for me in the last little while, I've been able to write 4 times more. I've been able to, transform things that I write for this into something for something else, like a book or a blog or something else. And I know we're in the world of AI and people are kind of like delegating their thinking to this thing. But I still think it's worthwhile doing your own thinking, keeping everything in your own brain for the most part, or even having your own framework for your own thinking. So what's your interpretation?
Well, like just having that, this is a side note, but they're talking about like the more we use AI, it's changing the way we think. So, and not in a good way. So it's really important that we have our own systems and frameworks, not just from the perspective of being able to have that ability to reason and make decisions that actually matter to us and be able to recall information quickly. But like you said, repurposing content, especially for business owners, is massive. So being able to find, oh, hey, I wrote a post, maybe Avon, you wrote an article maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and you're like, oh, I made a really good point about something. You can go and look that up and find it straight away. So it's not lost in the ether. And also, we're able to repurpose things quickly, and quickly is big part of the equation.
Yeah, well, I think there's another layer here, like in like maybe your communications and your interactions with people around you. So, we'll talk a little bit about, how to maybe get bigger contracts or how to, solve big business challenges, like not just about, creating a machine, a process machine or a marketing machine, but in the way that you arrive at a decision with other people.
Yeah.
So
love it.
And it really needs to be a habit, writing stuff down. I think, we talked about in the post for this, it says that 70% of knowledge is lost within the first 24 hours. And a lot of times when you know yourself that like you're in a meeting, at the end of the meeting is the best time to take the notes, or during the meeting and then summarize something a little bit after.
Yes.
The moment you sort of step away from that and the longer you leave it, you're in this massive state of mental decay as to what went on in the meeting, what was discussed, who said what was significant, what are the levers that are going to drive something forward. So by having it, I guess, as something that you're you're going to kind of wing it. You're going to rock up, the next day or a week later and decide that you're going to do X. You're not going to have as big of an impact because you haven't remembered all the detail. You haven't gotten the valuable information and extracted that out of that interaction.
100%. And even I think it's important to help the team at home. How do we know what's valuable? How do we know what future Amanda and future Avon might need to extract from that interaction?
I think in the moment, generally you can sort of tell some things that were significant. We were talking earlier about, maybe the way something was said, the context, the emphasis on certain things. Or maybe, you need to sit there and do some insights, or maybe even you come back to it, 24 hours, 48 hours later. So you write your initial thoughts, come back later, and then you'll have had some contemplation time. But that contemplation will be better because the notes you took, like whilst you write something, you're actually absorbing that information better. So if we're like 10 or 20% better information absorption from the interaction or from the meeting, and then we have some contemplation time to blend those thoughts with other things, to bring together other thoughts, to kind of like surface up things that you didn't think of in that moment, be a bit more reflective, then come back, reread, reflect. That's actually probably the most valuable thing. You're taught to do it at school. You're taught to do it when you go and learn something. But why aren't we doing it for the important interactions in our life? Whether that's, you're looking to do some transformational deal with a very big entity, or whether you're looking to, find a local partner to do something with. These business critical things are often done over could be like a long lunch or something like that. And people walk away and then lose 70% of all of the intent that they had in that meeting.
That's right. So okay, there's a question for you, Avon. You've just had that long business lunch. Are you sitting in your car taking notes on your laptop? Like what's your strategy so that you can stay on top of everything?
Well, like these days you've got dictation tools, so it's very easy just to record a voice note to yourself and just get like an initial capture. The first initial capture doesn't have to be amazing. Yes, sit in your car and do it. Like a good salesperson should have like their the CRM in their pocket, and then they can open up their meeting notes and then put some stuff in. I had one client who basically no one took notes ever because it took 10 minutes to log into the server. They couldn't access it really quickly. So because it took 10 minutes to get to the place where they put the notes in, they almost never put the notes in, or they do it in summary at the end of the week. And so the value that was captured was like less than 1% of what they could have had.
Right. So we got to make it easy for ourselves as well so that it's actually happening.
Yeah. So as we speak right now, I'm just opened up my phone. I'm going to go to my CRM and then, or if that's your notepad or something, and then, that takes 30 seconds to load. And then I go type in the name and then I'm done. So that's what 25 to 30 seconds to access somewhere to take notes as opposed to 10 minutes. How much do you think your brain would be distracted on? First I go here, then I log in there. Oh, the internet's not working. Maybe I have to go over here, then I'll go relog in. Now I've thought about 100 other things before I've gotten to the point where I'm actually writing the notes.
Exactly. And that frustration changes the input that you're going to put in there as well, your perception of what just happened. So,
So maybe, like in the meeting, good old fashioned notepad and pen, but then maybe you take that and then you improve and expand on that. I think there's a concept of slow down to speed up. Like if you're sitting there trying to do everything so fast, you actually do nothing. If you try to do a few things really well, you'll actually go a lot further.
That's right. Instead of getting stuck spinning your wheels.
Yeah. And, running stuff down helps you absorb the information better, like yourself. So even if you don't re-access that information, like the written form ever again, it's locked in harder into your brain so that when you go to the next day, you maybe, yes, you've had that mental decay, but maybe you've only lost 50% instead of 80%.
Exactly. It helps to lock it in.
So I guess, like this is not a new subject. I think it's just that people don't really do it as well as they should, or they don't put it into practice. Lawyers do. There's a thing called, it's a legal term called contemporaneous notes. And
that's a big word.
Yeah, contemporaneous. I even stumbled on it when I said it. But basically it means notes taken at or around the time of the incident. Now, contemporaneous notes are admissible in court. If I keep a diary and I say this happened, then this happened, then this happened, that could win someone a case. If I write the same thing 5 years later or 12 months later or even 1 month later, nowhere near as valuable. And so they'll say, yes, you took notes, I can see that. However, the time between when it happened, like if you did it within a couple of days or a couple of hours, that would generally say at that time you had a pretty good recollection of what was happening. That is holds more weight. So it may not always completely sway, but it holds weight as evidence. So it might say, well, this kind of outweighs what that person's saying, so we'll take that over this, and so we'll set that assumption of events as evidence.
Wow, there you go. So it also applies in the corporate world. Like reformed trainer facilitator here, I used to always teach meeting minute training because everyone's terrified of taking meeting minutes. First thing we teach them, get those minutes down within 12 hours of that meeting and get them distributed so that there's no excuses for accuracy, because one of the biggest challenges with minutes, and if we're talking board meetings, this is important stuff. You can't get them wrong. Has to be accurate. So it applies in the corporate world as well.
Another massive one in the corporate world is all the HR stuff. Someone comes to you with a conversation and you say, I met with this and email it to yourself, because then again, with contemporaneous notes, it creates a time date stamp. It allows you to put what happened. I spoke with this person on this day about this thing. They said this, I said that. Be very factual. And then say, I recommended this. My next action is going to be this, 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 and this. Even if you email it to yourself, you can find it later. And you can say, on this day, at this time, here is the thing. You can trace it through the servers. There's an audit trail to say that this happened on this day. And if someone comes back and argues, oh, no, they didn't tell me this, we can say, yes, I did. Here's the evidence.
Actually, it's right here.
Maybe they're like, oh, boss, so-and-so told me I could take a day's leave. And then when someone comes to you and says, did you authorize that day off? You can say, they asked me about it. We talked and we said, no, it'd probably be better if they, took this other day off. And instead, now that becomes a performance issue, not a you as a manager issue.
Exactly. So very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff.
So I think also, like writing down ideas. How many times have you sat there and go, oh, this is an amazing idea? Now, this is going to get a little confusing, but there's you have your unknown unknowns, and what that means is you don't know what you don't know. You've got your known knowns. That's the things that you know that you know. It's like, obviously, I know all of these things. There are your known unknowns. So I know that I don't know a lot about quantum physics. I know it's a thing. I know there's many, many textbooks on it. But if I didn't know that such a thing existed, that would be an unknown unknown.
Yes.
The next one is what people miss the most, and is probably the most frustrating one, which is your unknown knowns. And that means you've heard it, you've learnt it, you've maybe written it down, you've forgotten about it. And so you've actually already come across this before, but you don't realize that you have. What that classically is, I've written down an idea down and I've filed it away and I can't find it again. So when I have that idea again, I go, oh, this is a great idea. Actually, we've had that idea before. Maybe if we've had it twice, we should rank it up in value, or we should combine and improve that idea. So I guess there are just 4 ways to think about knowledge and information, particularly in like the intelligence world. that there's a big bit of that, because we're talking about a lot of people trying to consolidate some shared knowledge. And so if everybody forgets that this thing has been discovered before, then that one, frustrating. It's something you need to fix. Yeah.
100% inefficient, costing you time, costing you money. Not ideal.
So I guess in a way, we want to try and make it easy. We talked about the one where it took 10 minutes for them to log in to put sales notes. So yeah, sales notes in a CRM are a form of knowledge management. What we're talking about, we sort of said that your classical knowledge management was SOPs, but it can be interactions. We talk about maybe like a shared document that you use with the client for some level of brainstorming and just to get clear on, what's in, what's out, what are we actually talking about here? Then
use those all the time. So valuable. Amazing.
And then some easy ways to do it. We talked about email. We talked about using some apps, like sometimes I'll just because it's convenient or that's where I am, I'll use some voice note to my team and say, hey, this isn't a task for you. It's just me parking it here. I need you to keep me accountable. Nice. But this is what I need to do. This is my thought, my idea. And then when they come back, it's even better because they can go, oh, you mentioned this, but I also thought that you should consider that as well. So, we improved that. We've already in other episodes talked about Obsidian. So if you're watching this, search our channel. There's a couple of knowledge management episodes or personal knowledge management episodes, live streams that we've done where we've displayed on screen how to do that. And then, of course, just in a plain old notepad and pen.
Absolutely. Would not leave home without it.
Yes, once upon a time in the military, if you don't have a notepad and pen on you, you're in trouble.
Oh, wow. There you go. And also, I mean, we're carrying these guys around, so no excuses, right?
Yeah, very easy. Like you've got things like Google Keep or Samsung Notes or whatever platform you use, Apple Notes, and you can use the voice to text. And so you may be ugly, may miss some grammar. Don't get caught up on that. Just get the information, the key facts out, even if the dot point didn't render correctly, or which folder do I put it in. Maybe have a series of notes that are unstructured that you just like instant immediate capture, and then have a process of reviewing, improving. You might file it, you might do whatever. This is why I like the Obsidian, because you don't have to file it. You can build an info structure in and around your information without getting stuck. Because if you go, oh, I've got this great idea, now which category is it in? And then you find the same as like that 10-minute problem of trying to log in. Then you start thinking about what folder, what subfolder, what subfolder, how do I name it, and then by that time you've mixed in the idea with a whole bunch of other layers of stuff that's now watering down the quality of what the original idea was.
Exactly. So just have some kind of folder that is to be filed, and then you're good. Yeah. Just always pen. Just chuck it in there.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Just chuck it in there, and then you can have, a set time each week or maybe each day where you file the things where they need to behave or need to live.
Yeah. So extremely accessible, rapid info capture. Yeah. I think that pretty much nails it. Yeah, we've covered most things. Now, if you are watching, don't forget that we do have an online community where we teach information very much like this, tips, tricks, advice. If you've got questions, you can jump in the community as well. Let us know. We've solved some very big business challenges. We did have someone that I spoke to quite recently who was looking to do a major transaction, like potentially in the hundreds of millions of dollars, with a major vendor that everyone in the business world would be familiar with. And in order to get to what an ideal position would be, the answer is document the idea, document the conversations, share that, pull that document with the other side, so that we can say, these are my thoughts, those are your thoughts, this is what we think, what direction we should head in, these are our hesitations and reservations. And by having that as a written form of communication between you, particularly if it's a very complex thing, generally involves lots of people, generally involves number of meetings. If it's written down, you can improve on and build on that. And, I think even though that sounds simplistic, people think that they have to hold everything back until they hand this beautifully presented, published, polished thing. But if you don't have some middle kind of scribble pad, then you're not really going to develop what that idea could be. Because maybe, initially you're talking about this, but then you could fold in some other kind of opportunity or expand the idea to make it worth this much. So yeah, it seems like a little thing. It's a little bit up in the air. It's a little bit fluffy in terms of all this knowledge management, but it is absolutely transformational. If you can get this, you get your head around it, then you can absolutely knock it out of the park. So
amazing. So make sure, like in those bigger business deals, just to put a bow around that, make sure we're sort of whiteboarding with them to nut it all out and get the best possible outcome for everyone at the table, right?
100%.
Love
so
it.
I think that pretty much covers us for the day. If you've got any questions, let us know. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and you stay classy.